Okay, perfect. It is 9:30. Call the meeting to order. Order to do the adoption of the agenda and the minutes, and then I'm going to come back to the deputy appointment. First with the agenda, administration, anything to add from administration?
Yes, we would like to add 9.8 service level review under the procedural bylaw for emergent items.
Okay.
And under close to the public, 12.4 personnel under section 17 of the FOIA.
Perfect, thank you. Anything from council? Not seeing any. If I could get a motion to move the agenda as amended. Councillor Williams?
I'll make a motion that council approves the agenda as amended.
Thank you. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? I'd just like to acknowledge that we have Councillor Burrows joining us virtually. Go down to adoption of the minutes, 3.1, got a couple here. Start with the council meeting on June 19th, 2024 minutes. Any errors, omissions, anything we need to look at there? Seeing any? Motion. Councillor Williams?
I'll make a motion to adopt the council meeting minutes 19th of June 2024.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Special council meeting of July 2nd, 2024. Anything there? Councillor Kuchen?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of the special council meeting July 2nd, 2024.
Thank you very much. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. That one's carried. And the special council meeting minutes of July 11th, 2024. Councillor Prestige?
I'll make a motion that council accept the minutes of special council meeting July 11th, 2024.
Okay, thank you. With that, call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Move up to number 1, the deputy reeve appointment, just in our rotation. Sorry, Corinne, do we need to make a motion on that one you
I
said?
would like a motion, please, Reeve.
Okay, if I can just get a motion to appoint Councillor Jeremy Wilhelm as deputy reeve in accordance with our deputy reeve rotation schedule. Councillor Williams?
I'd like to make a motion that council appoints Councillor Jeremy Wilhelm as deputy reeve for Woodlands County in accordance with the deputy reeve rotation schedule.
Thank you very much, sir. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Good thing he's not here to step out of that one. We're a couple minutes away from our public hearing. Let's see, we'll move down to item 8.1. Start with old business. Is Denisha.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay. So Mr. Stanley had brought to council last council meeting a request to have a tax forgiveness for several parcels of their land, and requesting that the taxes be forgiven for this year and proposed future years. Councillor Brewers had requested that we, as administration, went back and did some analysis to bring back to council. And on that review, we have two possible outcomes that could happen here with the decision to forgive taxes. And we could be setting a precedent that we, as the municipality, doesn't want to set as a county. And we are also having the issue of possible increased costs for other ratepayers, because our other ratepayers will need to burden that expense that we forgive, because all our ratepayers right now share with the expenses of the county and also the requisitions that we received. So of the properties that we would be forgiving this year, $11,000 is approximate taxes that we would be forgiven, and of that is $5,000 in requisition. So if we project that in the future, it would be at least that amount, presuming that assessments does not decrease. If assessment were to increase, then those amounts will also increase. And so based on our analysis, we're requesting that council do not approve this request in the moment. And we have also done an analysis of our rates compared to our neighbors, and our rates are quite favorable both on our residential and our non-residential rates.
Thank you. Any questions from admin or council for administration?
Mr. Chair, can you hear me? Yeah, I just, for information's sake, on through the chair to the Director of Corporate Services, what neighbors were we comparing in this comparison?
We did a couple analysis by looking. We went to the province firstly and review their open data that they published of several hundred municipalities to compare where our rates lie in those averages and medium, and ours were very favorable. Then we checked some of our neighbors that are closest to our borders, and our rates are also favorable to them. If council may allow me to not name names for the sake of not really calling out our neighbors, that would be appreciative.
Thank you. Need a follow up on that, Councillor Burrows? Are you good?
No, I just wanted to know who we were comparing to. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments from council? Not seeing any. Somebody want to make a motion, or what do we want to do with this? Councillor Coolgan?
I'll make a motion that council decline Robert Stanley Development request for property tax forgiveness for 2024 and the next 5 years.
Thank you. With that, any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any, call the question. All in favor? And that is approved. A couple minutes out still. Let's go to 9.1 Cutbank Road erosion. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning. Thank you, Worship, members of council. Approximately 300 meters of Township Road 593A, this section known as the Cutbanks Road, leading to the tube pudding. East of the tube pudding was damaged in the 2023 June flood. The total slope of the road was washed out, and barriers were placed to warn and protect motorists. A consultant was retained to develop and evaluate the short, medium, and long-term solutions for the remediation of this erosion site. 7 options were developed and evaluated. This project has been identified in the Provincial Disaster Recovery Program. The DRP program is intended to be a cost reimbursement after construction to fund the restoration of the damaged assets back to the pre-disaster functional state. Administration has been in regular communication with the province on this project. While a funding guarantee cannot be provided by the province may fund close to $1.6 million, which represents option M1 to rebuild to the pre-disaster state, as that would be the cost to restore to that state. If there is another option that facilitates the same intent, such as constructing the road on a new alignment, the province may fund the restoration up to the cost of restoring to the pre-disaster functional state. Therefore, considering the importance of network connectivity, potential provincial funding, and return of investment, administration is recommending option L1, which is to build a new road to the south of the existing alignment. If we are to proceed with option L1, the project costs are estimated as follows. Pre-tender engineering services estimated in the amount of $100,000, post-tender engineering services estimated at in the amount of $150,000. Property acquisition is a separate line item on the budget, and construction cost is estimated to be approximately $1.1 million. Once council approves the option selection, administration will proceed to hiring a design consultant, and construction is expected in 2025. Administration will continue to engage the province for funding once there is a design and further clarity from the province on funding eligibility later in 2024. The construction portion will be brought to the 2025 budget discussions. It is recommended that in terms of funding, because there are $250,000 already in the 2024 budget, it is recommended that $100,000 of that $250,000 be retained in 2024 to fund the pre-tender services for this project. The remaining $150,000 can be treated as a capital surplus to fund the next RFP or other peripheral services. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Zhang?
Through the chair to Mr. Zhang, so just so I understand it, that money that's been set aside for capital, as I understand it, that $250K was for the purchase of a new right-of-way, is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Dean, no, there is a separate figure in the budget for land acquisition.
Okay.
The 250,000 in the budget was for the design and construction of Cutbanks Road.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Councillor Coogan?
Through the chair to Jeff, my concern would be, I'm not sure yet whether we've got our DRP funding for the other project that, or the other repair that was done years ago. Has that happened yet? Because, you know, from a timeline perspective, how long does it take that DRP funding to be applied, that we get that back? Because we may have to carry that for 2 or 3 years as we did in the past with other DRP funding.
Administration?
Through the chair to Councillor Coogan, Mr. Sheldon is the person who looks after DRP. I know some information. I can provide that for the work that we have done in 2023. Immediately after the flood, we have submitted such the financials to the province. I cannot confirm to you whether we have received compensation. Can the administration take this away and provide email to council?
Councillor Prestige?
Through the chair to Jeff, if we do the new right-of-way and move the road over there, the old road, what are we gonna do with it? Are we gonna reclaim it? Where's the money coming to do that work? And are we gonna be responsible for that neighbor next door? Because it's probably gonna wash out right to their place. Are we gonna be responsible for anything that stuff?
Through the chair to Councillor Prestige, if we move the road, the old road can either be left in place and we do a land exchange with one of the neighboring landowner, or we can reclaim it. That's a decision later for council to make. My suggestion is not to reclaim, just leave as is, because the road does provide some value in flood mitigation. In terms of protection for other landowners, the road itself is not intended for a flood mitigation measure. It's a road there. there isn't much protection the county can offer to other neighboring residents in that sense.
Councillor Dean?
Thanks, through the chair, to Mr. Zhang. So when reviewing the options of what to do with that road, I know one of the options that you just suggested to be considered was a land swap. Council had considerable discussion on that point, and one of the things that is not necessarily stressed within our strategic plan is an overall recreation master plan. But certainly one of the deficiencies that's been identified is public river access. And I just want that out in the public forum again, so that people understand that there isn't great access to that river. It's a great recreational river when it doesn't flood. But I think we need to be careful when we consider our options that way.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from council? Not seeing any. Anybody want to make a motion? Councillor Dean?
I'll move that council approves the selection of option L1, new road, for the Cutbanks road bank erosion.
Thank you. With that, any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any other question, all in favor? And that's carried. And then we have a second motion on this RFD.
I can do
Councillor
that.
Dean?
So I move that council approves retaining $100,000 to fund the pre-tender services for Cutbanks road bank erosion project, and moves the remaining $150,000 into the 2024 capital surplus to fund Old Ferry Road bank erosion project and other peripheral services for both projects.
Thank you. Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any. I'll hold the question. All in favor? Councillor Burrows in favor? There you go. Thank you. And that's carried. Okay, with that, we're just 2 minutes behind here. We're going to go up to our 9:45 public hearing for Bylaw 614-24, Land Use Amendment 2024 LUA 01 for Part West 1-62-6 west of the 5th Meridian, Plan 1084 KS, Block 7, Lots 5 and 6, rezoning from public institutional to, or district to Hamlet residential district. So with that, introduce myself. My name is Dave Cush. I am the Woodlands County Reeve and Councillor for Division 1 in Salmo. And I'll just start around the table here because we do have members of the public, just so we know if we got the table. Councillor Dean?
Sure. Alan Dean, Division 3.
Peter Kilkin, Goose Lake, Freeman River.
Bruce Prestige, Division 5 Council.
Devin Williams, Fort Assembly, Team U Councillor.
Online there?
John Burrows, Councillor for White Court West.
Thank you. Before we begin, I'd like to note that a public hearing, we are reminded to respect the views of everyone and allow each individual their time to speak without interruption. Each person wishing to speak has up to 5 minutes to make a presentation to council. Members of the public wishing to speak in relation to the public hearing subject will state their full name, identify the address of their Woodlands County property, and whether they are speaking for themselves or speaking for another group. All discussions of members of council, administration, and the public shall be directed through the chair. Council does not debate this matter during the public hearing, and the decision regarding whether to grant the bylaw further readings will be dealt with after the close of the public hearing. Public hearings are to allow input on facts and offer the public an opportunity to provide their feedback. The public hearing is not intended to be a question and answer period. And with that, declare this open. I'll pass it over to administration.
Thank you, Councillor. So the purpose and background of this public hearing is being held pursuant to Section 692, subsection 1F of the Municipal Government Act, and as required by Section 33 of Woodlands County Land Use Bylaw 49017. In reference to Section 33 of the County Land Use Bylaw, Council may consider a land use amendment. The Purpose of this public hearing is to provide an opportunity for members of the public who may be affected by the proposal to voice any comments or concerns they may have prior to council considering this bylaw amendment for second and third readings. Bylaw 616-24, an application to amend the land use of Part West 162-6 west of 5th Meridian Plan 184 KS Block 7 Lots 5 and 6. Rezoning from Public Institutional District to Hamlet Residential District was received on May 27th, 2024. The applicant seeks to rezone the subject parcels for the purposes of future residential development. The land use amendment bylaw 616-24 was first brought before council for first reading and to establish a public hearing date on June 19th, 2024. The bylaw passed first reading and a public hearing was scheduled for today, July 17th, 2024. The public hearing was advertised for 2 consecutive weeks in the Barhead Leader. Letters were sent to all adjacent landowners advising them of the public hearing and an opportunity to provide comments on the land use amendment. Government agencies, utility companies, and Woodlands County Infrastructure Department were referred to. Comments received to date are attached under Appendix A of this RFD. All comments and letters received from the referrals express no concerns in principle with the proposal. No letters or comments were received from the public prior to this public hearing. I'm just going to briefly read out the comments we did receive from our referral agencies. From Apex Utilities, whom it may concern, Apex Utilities Incorporated has no objection to the proposed rezoning described in the file mentioned above. Please notify utility safety partners at 1-800-242-3447 to arrange for field locating should excavation be required within the described area. We wish to advise that any relocation of existing facilities will be at the expense of the developers, and payment and contribution required for new gas facilities will be the responsibility of the developer. Thank you, Apex Utilities. From Fortis, Alberta, good afternoon. We have no issues with this rezoning. Please contact 310 Wire for electrical services. Take care. Logan Jameson. From TELUS, good day. Thank you for including TELUS in your circulation. At this time, TELUS has no concerns with the proposed activities. Thanks, Jaylene Perkins. And Steve Hollett from our acting field services manager. There is no concerns with the application. Further confirmation of services will need to be conducted at the development stage. And finally, Alberta Transportation. Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors offers the following comments and observations with respect to the proposed land use amendment. Pursuant to Section 618, subsection 1 of the Municipal Government Act, the department expects that the municipality will mitigate the impacts of traffic generated by developments approved on the local road connections to the highway system in accordance with Policy 7 of the provincial land use policies. Please contact Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors through our Path portal if you have any questions or require additional information. I would also like to state that the proposal is consistent with the county's land use bylaw and municipal development plan. There's no concerns on our end from administration, and that concludes my remarks.
Thank you very much, sir. I'll start with councillor questions. Do we have any questions from council on this proposal? Okay, once, twice, not seeing any. Move down to public feedback. We'll start. If we have anybody from the public who needs to speak in favor or oppose. Okay, moving through this one. Ask one last time, council. Seeing any? With that, I'll now declare the public hearing for Land Use Amendment Bylaw 616-24 closed. And that'll move us to 5.1, Bylaw 616-24. Okay, Mr. Raposa.
All right. This is for Bylaw 616-24, amending Land Use Bylaw 49017, Land Use Amendment Application 2024 LUA01. for parts west 162-6 west of 5th Meridian, Plan 184 KS Block 7, Lots 5 and 6, rezoning from Public Institutional District to Hamlet Residential District. Given the background of this proposal, there's been no concerns received to date, and this land use amendment is consistent with all of the county applicable bylaws and plans. So administration is recommending that council give second and third reading to bylaw amendment 61624.
Hey, thank you again. Just going through this. Any other questions or comments from council on this? Not seeing Councillor Williams.
Make a motion that council gives second reading to bylaw 61624, amending Woodlands County Land Use Bylaws 490/17 for part W162-6 west of 5th, Plan 1084 KS Block 7, Lots 5 and 6 from Public Institutional District to Hamlet Residential District.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All in favor? That one's carried. And we want to Councillor Kuchen.
I'll make a motion that council give third reading to bylaw 61624, amending Woodlands County Land Use Bylaw 490-17 for part west 162-6 west of the 5th, Plan 1084 KS Block 7, Lots 5 and 6 from Public Institutional to District to Hamlet Residential District.
Thank you, Councillor. Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, 9.2, Old Ferry Road Cutbank Erosion. Welcome back, Jeff.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Approximately 350 meters of Township Road 593A, this portion known as Old Ferry Road, between Range Road 124B and Range Road 125 was damaged in the June 2023 flood. The top slope of the road was washed out and concrete barriers were placed to warn and protect motorists. A consultant was retained to develop and evaluate the short, medium, and long-term solutions for the remediation of this erosion site. Total of 15 options were developed and evaluated. This project has been identified in the Provincial Disaster Recovery Program. The program is intended to be a cost reimbursement after construction to fund the restoration of damaged assets back to its pre-disaster functional state. Administration has been in regular communications with the province on this project. While a funding guarantee cannot be provided, the province may fund close to $2.4 million, as that would be the cost to restore to the pre-disaster functional state, which will be option M2. I had a typo on the RFD. Should read M2, not M3. Less land acquisition costs. If there's an innovative alternative option, such as constructing the road on a new alignment, the province may fund the restoration up to the cost of restoring to the pre-disaster functional state. Considering the importance of network connectivity for the Old Ferry Loop, potential provincial funding and return of investment, option L2C, realigning the road while minimizing property impacts, is recommended. If we are to proceed with option L2C, the project costs are estimated as follows. The pre-tender engineering services estimated at an amount of $100,000. Post-tender engineering service estimated in the amount of $150,000. Property acquisition is a separate item on 2024 capital budget. However, the current budget is not adequate. And lastly, the construction cost is estimated to be approximately $2 million. Once council approves the option selection, administration will proceed to hiring a design consultant. Construction is expected in 2025. Administration will continue to engage the province for funding once there is a design and further clarity from the province on funding eligibility later in 2024. the project will be brought to the 2025 budget discussions. In terms of funding, it is recommended that council utilize 100,000 capital surplus from 2024 allocation for the Cutbanks Road project to fund the pre-tender engineering services for the old Ferry Road bank erosion. The remaining $50,000 will be used for other peripheral services between the two projects. Thank you.
Quick question I have for you, Jeff. Given that this is going to be, a option while minimizing property impacts, have we had any preliminary discussions with the property owners that may be impacted?
Through the chair, no, we have not. We need to decide on a general direction to go before engaging landowners.
And just, I guess, a follow-up to that, if we go to reroute the road and there is, say, substantial pushback from residents on the impact to their properties there to be able to realign to make this, what is the, I guess, plan B behind that?
The plan B would be, will likely be another L2 option. That would be my first reaction on a plan B. A plan C may look into other options under the L category.
Thank you. Any other questions from Councillor Klugen?
Yes, so through the chair to Jeff, so we're looking at a $600,000 budgeting requirement that we're going to be looking at above the DRP. Because you said it was 2.4 million that the province would possibly fund close to, and the L2C is a $3 million project. So we're looking at funding 600,000 from our own dollars.
Through the chair to Councillor Kukin, that 600,000 difference largely represents the estimate for land acquisition, which
Okay.
the province does not fund under the DRP program.
Okay.
There may be other funding programs that may fund property acquisition related to flood projects, but that has not been trialed.
Okay.
Any other questions from council? Councillor Burrows?
Microphone here. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so and we've had no conversations with property owners yet. So I just want to be clear. So the recommended action is option L2C, is that correct? Reline the road, and the new route would be that yellow dashed area on page, I don't have a page here, under the McEnany engineering photographs.
Through the chair to Councillor Burrows, L2C is the recommended option, and if you look at the RFD page 68 of your agenda package, I also inserted a snip of the recommended alignment in the RFD. And if you look at the attachments for this RFD, it would be figure 8 in the appendixes.
Okay, I just see there being, like, there's a fair bit of traffic on, just speaking broadly, there's a fair bit of traffic on Old Ferry, and this is a pretty significant realignment. I think we're going to get a lot of pushback on this on L2C, just so that council's aware. I don't know how else to put it.
Through the chair to Councillor Burrows, we have evaluated option of just moving the road 20 meters to the north so that we stay largely along the existing alignment. That option is listed as option S3. It is a less than 5-year option. Essentially,
Yeah.
the next flood would take it out at a price tag of $2.9 million.
Would it be agreeable to administration to bring this back after having some preliminary discussions with some of the landowners, just so we can kind of gauge what we're making a motion on or spending the money on? I would just hate to make a motion, start doing the engineering and stuff, and have that money set out for something that may not come to fruition or end up, when the residents, if they push back or if they have an issue with where we're going or don't want to sell the land, maybe we should be having those conversations first. Councillor Dean?
Through the chair, to your point, what about an open house? What about hosting an open house here with
All the options. Again, for administration, are we time sensitive on this, or is it something that we could schedule that? Because it does impact the residents. It's their traffic flow, it's their properties. I would like to make sure that we've at least had that type of consultation or a discussion with the residents, especially the ones who may be impacted by the road being moved through their property before we make a decision on this. I feel more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Through the chair to council, I'd be supportive holding a public input session and before we proceed too far into the project. I do want to provide that if we can at least start the hiring process for the engineer, and because I do want to have the engineer develop more detailed plans. And there's a benefit for that because then we can see the exact impact of each landowner. Right now, it's just more of a line on the map. It's not precise. Okay. So if it's agreeable to council, I'd like to at least proceed with some quick engineering to know the exact impacts to different landowners.
Okay, so I guess what we're saying is keep motion 2 that we have in the RFD, which is the utilization of $100,000 from 2024 for pre-tendering engineering. And then instead of motion 1, maybe motion 1 becomes scheduling an open house, I guess, after the, I'm assuming you want the engineering documents first?
Yes, some plans
Okay.
to be generated. So the public session can be scheduled sometime in hopefully late August or early September.
Okay, thank you. Does that work for, this is your area up there, Councillor Burrows? I'm just checking if that would be, if you would work for you and the residents out there.
Yeah. Oh, I think I'm on mute. I don't know.
Nope, you're good.
Okay, sorry. I have to bounce back and forth between screens on this. So, yeah, Mr. Chair, I appreciate the opportunity to do a public open house on this. So I think that's the only way to go. So do you want to kind of reverse the order of these motions? Do you want to do motion 2 as motion 1 and then motion 2 to schedule the public hearing after, just to make sure it passes?
Yeah, I think that's what we're talking at.
Okay, if that's acceptable, then I'll go ahead and make a motion that council approves the utilization of $100,000 from the 2024 capital surplus to fund the pre-tender engineering services of Old Ferry Road bank erosion.
Okay, thank you. With that, any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. And then second motion on the RFD.
Mr. Chair, if you will,
Go ahead, John.
I can make the second motion as well. Just to schedule a public open house for optional realignments based on the engineering for the Old Ferry Bank erosion while minimizing major property impacts.
Thank you. Does that motion work for administration? Or get the heads up there? Thank you very much. Any more discussion on that motion? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much for that, Jeff. You had lots of information in these. It's great to see.
Yeah.
9.3 pilot program subdivision, cold mix road program, pulverization alternatives.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. County forces in the past has laid coal mix over subdivision gravel roads as a means of dust abatement. The methodology may be cost effective when coal mix was relatively cheap. However, since the coal mix was placed over subgrade without a structure layer to support it, the coal mix surface tend to reach its end of life in approximately 5 years. Exponentially growing maintenance costs and rough driving surfaces are some of the concerns experienced towards the end of life for these coal mix roads. Starting 2021, county staff has been pulverizing coal mix subdivision roads that cannot be effectively managed back to gravel surface. In 2024, the Westridge subdivision and Gibson subdivision roads were identified as the candidates for this year's pulverization program. The work was originally planned to commence in July 2024 using county forces and equipment. Following our discussion at June 19th council meeting, I would like to take this opportunity to offer some alternative solutions for consideration by council. When coal mix subdivision roads are unmanageable, there are several strategies that can be employed to manage their level of service. Given the financial constraint, a pilot program is necessary to evaluate the efficacy of proposed strategies in balancing cost and providing a reasonable level of service. For the Westridge subdivision roads, there's presence of large quantities of potholes that tightly grouped together, very rough driving surface and localized soft spots. The road base appears to be weak. An option to increase the strength of the road structure is preferred, as that will be a necessary future expenditure in any option that we select. Westridge subdivision roads are also in worse shape compared with Gibson. So the following 10 options were prepared for Westridge subdivision roads, approximately 2.9 kilometers in total. Option 1, pulverized to gravel surface. Option 2, pulverized gravel surface with optional dust abatement. Option 3, pulverized and cement stabilization with chip seal surface. Option 4, pulverized and asphalt stabilization with gravel surface. Option 5, pulverized and clay bonded stabilization with gravel surface. Option 6, modified coating place recycling. Option 7, pulverized and build base course with chip seal surface. Option 8, pulverized and build base course with cold mix surface. Option 9, pulverized and build base course with hot mix surface. And option 10, pulverized and repave with cold mix. These are high level estimates, the construction cost and annualized total cost. These are high level estimates based on a relatively small project. And the work is assumed to be undertaken by a contractor. If county forces can be utilized in carrying out some of the work, the cost may be reduced. So for options 3, 8, 9, and 10, the county would have to debenture to raise the funding, the necessary funds. Therefore, these options are not recommended at this time. Any future evaluation will have to evaluate the county's debt limit and the budgetary impacts of future debenture payments. Option 1 and 2 do not really increase the strength of the roads, and option 6 is recommended as it provides the lowest annualized total maintenance and construction costs, as well as the lowest initial capital cost among the remaining options. All the options should be compatible with what council may decide for the future for cold mix subdivision roads, as they all can be converted to a gravel surface or a paved surface without a substantial throwaway cost at the end of their functional lives. Therefore, as a trial, the administration recommends proceeding with option 6, which will provide a hard surface with a reasonable lifespan to maintain the current level of service in lieu of the original plan, which is just to pulverize and return to gravel. For Gibson subdivision roads, Despite the presence of potholes, the road appears to be stable in a better state than Westridge subdivision roads. Portions of the Gibson subdivision roads were previously pulverized to gravel surface. The options that we developed are similar to that of the previous Westridge subdivision, so I'm not going to repeat the options. For the consideration of the options, the administration has adopted the same line of thought that options 3 to 10, we will have to debenture to raise the necessary funding. Therefore, these options are not recommended this time. And among the remaining option 1 and 2, option 2 is the recommended option because it does provide optional dust control to maintain the level of service. Work is planned to be completed by end of August if approval is obtained. And as this is a pilot program, administration will closely monitor the efficacy of these strategies and adjust accordingly to provide a reasonable level of service. The total remaining budget is $458,000. I had a typo, I'm missing the $8,000 there. For the COMEX programming, the 2024 capital budget. The prorated budget for this RFD is $395,000. Thank you.
Okay. Questions, comments? Councilor Dean and then Councilor Burrows.
So through the chair to Mr. Zhang, I can appreciate that there must have been some sort of metric used to identify which were the best candidates for the pilot program. I know when we went on our road tour, the road that caused the bus to fall apart was not on here. So I'm just wondering what metric was used. Was it population density? Was it traffic counts, approximate traffic counts? How did you identify these ones as the appropriate candidates for the pilot program?
Through the chair to Councilor Dean, this were based on my and staff's our review when we drive the roads.
Okay.
If council would like us to consider other roads in this, in lieu of one of the two, we can certainly take a look.
Follow up?
Yeah, so I guess I'm not going to speak on behalf of council, but I can appreciate that when you have a pilot program, clearly you've got a specific focus in it. I'm sure there's one or two other roads that would be good candidates as well, but what I appreciate is information presented, the plan going forward. So I wouldn't suggest that we need you to change things.
Councilor Burrows?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Through the chair, I'm just a little trying to follow this exactly because Mr. Zhang was talking about options 3 through 10, and all I have on my list here is 6 for 1 through 6 and 1 through 6. So, and when we talk about, so in the one subdivision, you're looking at going to asphalt stabilization and a cold mix placement. In the other section, option 6 is the same. Option 6 is option 6, but it's pulverized to a gravel surface with dust abatement. So I guess what I want to know, since this is a pilot project, is it our intention as part of this project to leave the section that's pulverized to gravel? Is that the last word on that? So what I'm trying to say is this year, and I think it's been brought up before, that we don't necessarily have a problem with going backwards to go forwards, but we need to let residents know when exactly it is that we plan on going forwards again. So is that road then to be left as gravel with dust abatement for the rest, or is it supposed to come forward as a replaced as cold mix at some point?
Councilor Burrow, I just, before you go in here, I think you're looking at 9.4 for the options. That has 1 through 6 and 1 through 6. If you go up to 9.3,
I'm sorry, I got the wrong one. You're right.
give you a second to catch up if you need to look at the other options, sir.
No, that's
Corinne?
fine.
Just
Thank
a
you.
point of procedure for council, if everyone can ensure you're using your link from iCompass and not a PDF, then you'll ensure that you have the most up-to-date, accurate RFDs in front of you in the order that they are on the agenda.
And we got two RFDs start with the pilot program. I think we just went to the wrong one. But give Councillor Burrows a second.
Okay,
to
well,
look at it.
Option, what the heck? So we're on 9.3, correct?
Yes. Subdivision, cold mix road, pulverization alternatives.
All right. Yeah, so motion 1 is asphalt stabilization with cold mix placement as option 6. Motion 2 is also option 6, pulverized to gravel with dust abatement.
That's 9.4.
That's correct?
No, that's 9.4.
Nine? Well, I'm clicking on 9.3 in my package.
Both of them
Yeah, through the chair to the Reeve, the order was switched yesterday, I believe.
I've sent out,
So it's the PDF that was sent out on Friday has them the other way around. The link, if you went into, it has them this way.
Okay, you might have the,
there's an updated link in everybody's Outlook. If you're having troubles accessing iCompass, there is a link right at the top of your inbox.
Okay, well, I did what I always did and logged in through the portal, and this is what I got. So you're saying 9.4 is now 9.3, is that right?
Correct.
that's Rod saying yes.
Okay, so now we're looking at, all right, give me a minute. So this is the Westridge and the Gibson subdivision, correct?
Correct.
All right, well, same question still applies because we're going to pulverize to a gravel surface with dust abatement in Gibson, and we're going to modified cold mix in Westridge. So I guess what I'm asking is, what's the final plan? Is this surface going to stay as pulverized and dust control, some form of dust control, or is there a plan to eventually get it on the list for cold mix, or are we resurfacing at some point? There has to be a completion, or that's my question.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Through the chair to Councillor Burrows, the plan, the overall plan is still wait for the CAO's more comprehensive review of the whole cold mix program to come, and that will be brought back to council for discussion in hopefully the September council meeting. These pilot programs are not based on whenever the CAO is doing. This is based on our review and what we have to do this year. Option 6 for Westridge and option 2 for Gibson's will not diminish any effort if council wants to see the roads paved or return to gravel in the September or upcoming conversation. Returning the surface to gravel, all the other options are still on the table for future. And for Westridge, for us to converting to a modified coating place recycling, towards the end of life for that surface, it's already a hard surface, but let's say council decided to move to a different direction, we can still action that towards the end of life for that subdivision. All the options are still on the table. There is certainly some costs associated with changing direction, but those are not substantial costs.
Question I have for administration for the sorry, where is this one here? Is this Gibson Estate where we're looking at doing the option 2? If the option 6 for modified cold in place recycling, why isn't that a good option for this? Is it just financial restraints?
So, Chair, yes, we are limited by the amount of available funding because between these two RFDs, we're limited by a total number of 458,000. That's all the funding that we have.
And my next question, that I'm not a road guy again, so I'm just kind of asking here, but your modified cold in place recycling, that'll give you a hard surface like they're used to with the cold mix? Or is that
Correct.
still?
So, Chair, correct, it will be a hard surface.
Councillor Dean?
Through the chair to Mr. Zhang. So looking at option number 2 with the optional dust control, my experience with that is that over time with traffic, like any other gravel surface, it becomes washboardy, eventually needs to be graded, and the dust abatement quality is degraded with grading. So I don't see that captured here anywhere in the notes as to, you know, whether there would be a reapplication on an annual basis or what the plan is there.
Through the chair to Councillor Dean, in the annualized total cost of $38,000, I have included the cost of annual dust abatement in that calculation.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Rob.
Just through the chair to council, the benefit of this is it's a pilot program. And the more options we can choose in these in the 4 projects, we've got 3 different options, I think. Would have been great if we could have done 4, but with budget. So what it does is give you 3 good pilots to look at for moving forward. Doesn't, as Jeff mentioned, it doesn't mean that's the end, be all and end all, and that's what's gonna be there, but it'll give the public a chance to provide input to council. It'll give council a chance to look at them, and it might provide, some of the options may be out because they didn't work.
And to that point, if we're going with option 2 before any of that happens, there's going to be consultation with the, like, are we going to let the public know, that subdivision know what's going on, and that this isn't a be all end all. We're just trialing. We're trying to find a way to at least improve things before moving forward.
I think the intent, through the chair to council, the intent would be to put out notification or to put out a news release with what we're doing, but the intent was not to get the public's input on whether they like the option or not.
Councillor Coolton?
Yeah, through the chair to Jeff, my understanding here is that being that this is a pilot project, this doesn't take away from us pursuing in the long term potentially going to a cold mix program or whatever. This is just looking at a problem area, figuring out how to mitigate, and anything that we do over top of that will be just fine.
Through the chair to Councillor Cooken, you're correct. For Gibson subdivision, if the council agrees with the recommended option to return to gravel with dust abatement, next year if council decided to go to cold mix surface for that, we have budget discussions and allocate funding accordingly. We make a hard surface. For Westridge subdivision, if council agrees with the recommended option of doing a modified cold in place recycling, saying in 8 years' time, that's the lifespan of that activity, council wants to try a different strategy. That's the time for that. So all those options still on the table without a substantial throwaway cost.
Councillor Dean?
Through the chair to Mr. Zhang, I just want to go over again the base at Westridge. In your opinion, it's going to support the cold mix application and that lifespan you say would fall within that 8-year period?
Through the chair to Councillor Dean, these options were developed not based on ideal conditions. We're dealing with non-ideal situations, and that's why we have to come up with modifications of proper strategies. The modified coating place recycling is intended to grind up whatever material is there. We add additional gravel, we add oil to bind everything, and then lay down and pack. The resultant layer is a cold mix layer, but it's thicker than what we have today. And that's where it's going to gain a little bit more strength, and that's why I estimate it's going to last a few more years than the current. Is it ideal case? No, we're not dealing with ideal case here. If funding would not be a factor, then one of the options later, such as a cement stabilization or a rebuild a base course, that probably be the chosen option without a financial component. But because we are dealing with existing poor subgrade as well as a financial constraint, I recommended number 6.
Councillor Dean.
That's okay. I think you answered. Thank you.
Councillor Prestidge, Councillor Coogan, then Councillor Burrows.
Through the chair to Jeff, the issue I have is when we do these options, some of them are just basically a Band-Aid. The problem is, as you just said, our road don't have a subbase. Like when they pave a highway, there's usually a foot and a half of gravel laid down on top of the clay, which bridges the clay, and then you put your asphalt or cold mix on top of that. We don't have that. We have cold mix going right basically on a couple inches of gravel and clay. So it doesn't matter what we do to it, we're gonna have issues till we actually fix the road properly and put a sub-base under it. So I know this is a pilot project, but to me, what we're gonna do is just a Band-Aid.
Councillor Coogan.
Yeah, through the chair, to administration, I think that the options that you're giving here, being that it is a pilot project, is going to give us some knowledge as to what we can and can't do. And it may be a Band-Aid, but at this point in time, council did approve this funding to try to mitigate some of the problems up there. And I think the options that has been given to us by administration are absolutely adequate. I think they actually identify and show that we are trying to figure out what the best option in the long term is going to be. So I'm prepared to make the motion that council approve the program for Westridge Subdivision Cold Mix Roads, recommended as option 6, modified cold in place recycling.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? Councillor Burrows, speaking to the motion.
Well, speaking to the motion, this quote-unquote pilot project goes together with the other, I mean, calling it a pilot project, typically with a project there is a start and there is an end. So at the moment, on Westridge, we kind of have a plan to get a service level return. But if this is all grouped together as part of the same funding, then I guess the second motion speaks to this first, in the fact that I don't see this as being a quote-unquote project. It's kind of a partial, and I don't see a full ending on this yet. So I don't even see this as a project yet. I don't know how to communicate this to residents.
Anything else to our administration?
Through the chair to council, we have contracted the engineer to do the report on all the cold mix roads. And I think the intent was with that report along with the results of the trial, that then we would have a program to put forward for council approval. Right now, we're bound by $658,200 of which went to the contractor to do the report, so we're left with $458,000 this year to work with.
Yeah, but we, now again, this is before you guys came in. I'm sure we motioned to move the rest of that for next year so we could add that to the budget next year on top of that. So we had more money to work with instead of doing patchwork. And that was a discussion with Andre before he left.
So
So, you know, it's, especially for some of these residents, I think what John's getting at, I know Al and his subdivisions too. If you take a look, when we get down to even the next one in the Saginaw Estates, there are some very large homes in there on the hard surface, and our recommendation is just to put that whole subdivision back to gravel. I think we'll be, you know, lynched for better words on that. I don't know. I know we do have a motion on the floor, but following this, I don't know if we want to jump in. I am completely in agreeance with motion one on this so far for this one here, it brings the service level back. But some of these other ones from the resident standpoint, where they're looking at, they're gonna be seeing essentially a decrease in their quality of what they have. And we had an open house in the spring here, and again, this is before you guys came on, and we mentioned that, you know, we wanna make sure that what we have going ahead helps increase their quality back to where they were and not going backwards. So I don't know if, and there's a lot of work, I understand we have financial constraints on a lot of this, but instead of going through on maybe a bunch of these, if we pick one or maybe one or two to start and plan that maybe into next year so that we have something more quality going ahead instead of rushing a decision, would be my feeling on this. But we do have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion on that motion? Councilor Dean?
Through the chair to administration, I just want to clarify when the construction for the pilot program would start. Is that this summer?
Through the chair to Councillor Dean, the plan will be if motion one is approved, the work will start in August and hopefully be completed in August.
Thank you.
Right. Any other discussion on that motion? Okay, so I guess seeing none, first motion there for Western Subdivision cold mix roads, recommended option 6, modified cold in place recycling. Call the question, all in favor? That one is approved. And where do we want to go with Gibson Subdivision?
Mr. Chair. So, I guess, and it's unfortunate, so I'm gonna have to preface these comments with, we once again have a new administration and we have new CAO, we have new Director of Infrastructure, so I in no means want to make them feel that this is directed necessarily at them. Because I don't feel it's fair. The problem is the residents that have lived in these areas for over 20 years and longer, and the councillors that have been on this council for over 7 years now, have been getting the same song and dance from administration that we have a plan, we have the things that are going to go better, we're going to improve roads, and we've been communicating that to residents, and in reality nothing has changed. Now I understand that we've gone through, and I've been singing the praises of the fact that we've you know, brought ourselves back from the brink of an economic issue that was, you know, can't be understated, frankly. But I want to know, I've been saying to my residents for the last 4 years that we will have a plan, and I will be able to come to you and tell you when things are going to get better. And under this pilot program, there is no end in sight, because the program is just to grind up the roads. Now, again, I understand that you get to a point where the potholes are so bad that you've got to grind the surface up to give them something to drive on, and I had conversations with residents just recently on that, and that makes sense. But I don't see any communication in this where there's going to be any light at the end of the tunnel. So can somebody give me a timeline on when exactly we are going to see a plan, an honest to God plan, because I've been waiting 4 years on this, watching roads getting ground up and watching service levels go backwards. And again, if it's a financial constraint and which we had and we still have, then we've got a conversation to have around that. But when you see this as a pilot project to just basically turn it into gravel, I don't think that's where council was going when we talked about the returning the service levels of cold mix roads. So I want to know, I would like to know, when can I communicate? Because, and again, administration, they're new, they don't understand the frustration that council's that I'm going through on this issue, and that residents are going through, and it's my job to communicate that frustration. But for years we have been. I have people that live down Horn Road that was have letters from a mayor that tell them that the road's going to be paved in 2003. So can we have an end to this plan? Like at the moment, it's just to grind it up, and maybe you'll get dust control on what's left of your pulverized road. When do we get that plan? That's my question.
Jeff, do you know when the report is?
Through the chair to Councillor Burrows, the overall plan is to wait for the report, which will come sometime in August, and that will form the basis of what are we going to do with subdivision cold mix roads and feeding to the budget discussion for future years. There is a financial component that we have to be mindful of. If the recommended options by the consultants are extensive to the point that we have to borrow money to make them happen, then there is a future year consideration that we have to consider. I also know there was a discussion on some sort of a local improvement tax that will also have to be fitting to the same conversation. My pilot programs here are intended to provide alternatives to option one, which was the previous plan, or even the current plan, to just grind it up without any dust abatement. That I'm just trying to provide some alternatives for consideration here. For the residents, the council can communicate that we hope to have a plan for budget 2025 and going forward. I think that's fair to say.
To that point with the, and again, this is for 9.3 and 9.4, both motions too, which essentially just pulverize back to gravel. If we're waiting for the plan from the engineers, the consultants on what the best approach is to those, instead of spending the money to turn them back to gravel, would be better just to patch some of the holes we have right now and try to, we'll say if we can push this to our 2025 budget, just cost effectiveness would be better that way. I mean, the motion we have for 9.3 for the first one we passed, it gives them a little bit better, quality on the road, which is what we've been overall trying to accomplish here. Same with motion one through the next one. Again, through the asphalt stabilization, cold mix placement, it gives us an idea on what we can do in those areas, and it might help fix some of the issues, having having a thicker top and stuff on, but the other two, especially in our next one with the Sagatuwa Estates, there are some very large, very expensive homes out there, and a lot of those, some of those were built out there because of the hard top instead of going to a full gravel. So I would just, cost wise, is it more beneficial for us, instead of spending, was it $100 or so thousand on each of these roads, just to grind everything back to, I guess, just patch things right now until we get the rest of the consultant and see what that report looks like, and maybe, you know, financially it's not as big of a burden on us currently just to do the patchwork. I don't know, so I'm looking for administration on this.
Through the chair, Gibson subdivision roads are beyond its life. There's going to be patch over patch, and we'll be running out of virgin material to patch it against. The cost to patch potholes is also substantial. So that's one consideration. If it is council's desire, sorry, let me backtrack. The reason why we have two separate RFDs, because they belong to two different categories. The first RFD here, there are existing hard surface roads, are largely hard surface roads. We're trying to find a solution this year, what to do with them. The next RFD is for previously Pulverized, so they are already either gravel or largely gravel. Just thinking outside the box here, if council really wants to see a hard surface for Gibson, there may be a way that we don't go as a second pilot, use that money and try to do something with Gibson and make it hard surface.
I think for this council, and, you know, I don't want to speak for everybody here, but I think it'd be more beneficial for us and the residents and the municipality if we focused on a, you know, instead of a list of areas, if we broke it down even to one or two and actually put the money in and did something that would work long-term and give them a little bit of longevity, so we can at least see, you know, whatever, see what's there, see what's going on, and then use that and possibly start working, you know, other roads out. And that was part of what we had at our open house here in the spring when we were talking to residents, was that we wanted to, you know, we wanted to run or a trial or do something in different areas, and that, you know, to be patient with us, that things are going to get better, but it's not going to get better all at once. You know, it could be, you know, a road or a part of a road while we trial things, or, you know, one area over another. But I just want to make sure that whatever we're doing, we're bringing that quality back for the residents and not taking it away. And I understand some of these places have been patched over and over and over, and there's just about nothing left of those roads to start with. And I do understand that. And we're not trying to throw you in the hot seat here, or, you know, Rod, we do understand you guys coming in, you know, on the partway through this issue that's been ongoing for years. So we do appreciate everything you guys have brought here. Again, we're not, this isn't anything personal, like Councilor Burrow said, but we're trying to find ways to move ahead. So to that, Nikita?
Councilor Burrow's had his hand up.
Okay, to that, I guess I was gonna see if anybody else had anything to say, but Councilor Burrows?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and I want to reiterate that fact to the CAO and to our Director of Infrastructure as well. They're just at an unfortunate timing where people are running out of patience, and you know, everybody feels that. So, and honestly, my issue is not over grinding this up and turning it back into gravel. My issue is, where is the light at the end of the tunnel? I think residents want to know if again, I've been telling people for over 4 years now that we're going to have a plan coming forward on our cold mix roads, and we have not had a plan. So while this might be labeled as a pilot project, to grind something up and turn it back to gravel is not the end of a project. Usually a project will be, things get worse, then they get mediocre, and then they get better. That's typically what projects do. So at the moment, this project in this one area is to just go backwards. So I'd like a date on when exactly we're going to have a plan that we can communicate with residents on our cold mix roads, and whether it's going to be good news or bad news, it's not an issue, but I need to know when administration is going to come up with a plan for the cold mix road infrastructure and how we're going to sustainably pay for it. Again, I've said before that I think that past councils have developed service levels that are so high that they're difficult to pay for. But we're in that now, and I can't see going backwards like this year after year after year after year. So I think residents have been very patient. So that's my issue, and I honestly, like I said, I don't think they're going to have a problem with having their road ground up so that at least it's smooth, because a lot of the conversations that I've been having is there's so many potholes in it, I can't dodge them and they're wrecking my car. I just want a surface I can drive on. I don't have a problem with that, but and that's a step in the right direction, but it's certainly not a step that gets us back to a hard surface, which is what they had. So without making promises I can't keep, because that's not what I do, when are we going to see this plan? And I guess that's a question to our CAO and our Director of Infrastructure.
Do you have a date that he's promised the report?
End of August.
End of August. So we're gonna need at least a month, probably, to digest it.
We could try for September council meeting.
Second meeting in September.
No, I would probably budget that we're working through, so I'll say October. Because we'll have to have some discussion around 2 to 3 things that's on the strategic plan for reserve tax and financing, to have some discussion around that, how we will plan it out.
So first meeting in October?
So I would say, I'll go to the second meeting. Yeah, I would say October.
It's without the report, it's hard to nail a date, so we have to be somewhat cautious if we're gonna go to the public with it. So right now, we're thinking second meeting in October.
Our conversation having, John, they're supposed to be getting the consultant reports by the end of August, and then they're gonna need some time to go through and look at the financial impacts, but that's providing they get the report at the end of August would, where it's supposed to be. So they're cautioning for the second meeting in October currently.
Okay, I can hear you.
Councilor
Like again, I Mr. Chair, I think everybody understands where we're at here. It's like I said, 7 years I've been dealing with some austerity, and then things are going to get better, and we're having a plan, and we have administrative switches and staff switches, and we went through with the old Director of Infrastructure. We went through a whole period of grader training where they were going to put 5% slope on the crown, and now we're hearing that 5% is not enough. It needs to go to 10%, and it's just I need to see a plan.
Councilor Koolman?
Yeah, through the chair to John, I think what I'm hearing here is that going back in the history, you guys had a recovery plan when the financial state of this municipality wasn't that great, and that plan was followed through by administration, and successfully brought us to this date. So what I'm hearing here is that what we really need to do as a council is now have a look at some of the things that were basically neglected and were huge problems because we didn't have the funding, and have a plan for that. And be able to say to our residents that, now that we're through recovery, now that we know that we have to repair some of this stuff and do some of these things, that we have to have a plan and we have to figure out how we're going to generate the revenue to make that plan work. If that's what you're talking about, I'm in full support of that, because if we don't have a plan, we just are not going to reach the goal. And so that's, if it takes us a little longer to get that information, I think that I would support that.
Okay, Councillor Prestige, then over to Councillor Dean.
Through the chair to Jeff, I want to commend you with all your options that you gave us. We've never had that before.
Yeah.
So it is great to have that. It gives us a chance to see what we can do. But speaking to John, what we're dealing with here right now is not going to be the end all to fix these roads. It's going to be temporary. It might last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. What we have to do is have a plan, as John is saying, to bring our roads up where they're going to last 10, 15 years. We're going to have to come up with that plan, see what we have to do to get our roads in that position. Whether we have to, how can I say it? We have to come up with this plan and have the financing in place to get our roads there. And as John was saying, we have to have an end when we're gonna do this, whether it's gonna be 10 years or 15 years. So we can budget to get our roads in that position. So I agree with John on it. We have to have an end date when our roads are gonna be up to the 100%.
Councillor Dean.
Through the chair and I guess to council, I'd like to suggest that this consultant report that we're eagerly anticipating and the subsequent work that administration is going to do to put numbers attached is a sign of planning. We don't have it today. Councillor Burrows is asking for a date, and the date is a heck of a lot closer today than it was a year ago. We're 2.5 years into this term, and we're finally anticipating a plan. So I think we need to be a little patient, and I know that's difficult for our residents. It's difficult for me as a councillor. I've got many residents that live in subdivisions whose roads have deteriorated, and they're being patient, and for that, we're grateful. But I think we're further along the planning process than we ever have been.
Okay, so with that, back to the RFD here, 9.3 for the subdivisions, Gibson Acres, looking for what we are doing there, hearing what, sorry, Rod, your hand went up.
Sure, just through the chair to council, I'm wondering, because under the next RFD, those two roads or subdivisions have already been put back to gravel. So they're there. Rather than use the asphalt stabilization and have to ask Jeff if this will work, move that asphalt stabilization cold mix to Gibson for roads that are due to be downgraded. And then they wouldn't be downgraded as much. So then for this year, you'd only be doing Westridge and Gibson until a plan is in place, which then will deal with all of the other ones that have been pulverized previously. I don't know if that asphalt stabilization is at all.
To the CEO, it is a viable option, but funding is not.
Okay.
It's not adequate.
What would, I'm trying to go back to this. And sorry, jumping back and forth between the two RFDs here right now. I'm trying to see what the difference in funding is for the asphalt stabilization between, you know, if we remove it from, road or 592 and put it to subdivision, or the Gibson one, sorry.
If,
You know, if you know, that would be.
through the chair, the option for the road leading to Pine Meadows, which I put down as the next RFD, for asphalt stabilization, is to be done by county staff. You cannot compare the cost directly with a cost that's intended for a contractor to do.
Okay.
If council wishes, I can quickly develop an option of doing asphalt stabilization and coal mix placement for Gibsons, and to be done by county staff, and see how that cost comes.
And bring that back at,
I can circulate it by email. It's 2-3 days work for me.
John, would that work for you? Kind of put this on hold and get an option for Gibson, and maybe we just move the 9.4 out of here for right now.
Yeah, that'd be fine. I'm good for having more options. I'm hoping that I'm getting my I'm explaining myself well enough. Like I said, I'm not laying this at the feet of the current administration. I get where they're coming from. It's been a tough go as it is, but there's got to be an end point here at some point. So yes, I'd be supportive of that, please, and thank you.
Okay. With that, then, can I get a motion to have administration bring back additional options for Gibson subdivision Cold Mix roads? I'll make that motion, I guess. All right, Councilor
Okay.
Burrows.
Oh, I was going to say I'll make the motion, but you go ahead, Mr. Chair. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I'll make the motion that administration bring back to council alternative options for the Gibson subdivision Cold Mix roads. Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, that one is carried. Come back with some more options. And then 9.4 then procedurally, how do we move past that one?
I would just suggest tabling it pending the engineer's report
Okay.
on.
I'll make the motion then to table 9.4 pilot programs for, or is that Township Road 592 and 592A pending the consultant information. Discussion on that? Not seeing any, call the question. All in favor?
Sorry, you went through that pretty quick. I did have a question to the motion.
Okay.
So we're looking at a cost for motion number 1 in 9.4. We're looking at a cost of, no, I've got mine, it was 81,000, is that right? 83,000. So that's work being done by the county staff. That's going to improve service level for that area.
To that though, we are looking at moving those funds to the Gibson one.
Well, we're looking at
Options.
different options, right? So that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to take these funds. There is unbudgeted expenses, etc. But I just caution that we're kind of picking and choosing. I do understand that the consultant's report should give us valuable information, but I look at that cost of 83,000, and I think that's worthy of another part of this pilot project.
Okay, then to administration's point, we don't have the funding to do the extra to Gibson or to this.
Mhm.
We can do one or the other essentially.
All right, well then, I think that needs to be thrown into the conversation, into the research that they bring back to us. Some comparisons, some comparative data. I'm just not sure that it makes sense to completely abandon this recommendation.
Okay, and we're not, I said, we're tabling this till after it comes in. We're not abandoning this right now. We're just moving this till after the consultant comes in too.
Okay, well, if that's the will of council, that's fine.
Jeff?
Through the chair to Councillor Dean, take me a few days to come up with a new cost estimate for Gibson's if we were doing a Pulverization and then asphalt stabilization and then put back cold mix, a similar option as pine needles, and to be done by county staff and see what that number may drop down to. If that number comes in with some savings from our 458 budget, nothing stopping council in looking at both Gibsons and pine needles. That's still an option on the table. I don't want to take that away.
Councillor Williams, your hand is up.
No, I was just gonna say that too, if there was savings from the first one, if this could be worked into it, it's sort of interesting, because this option I don't think we've ever charged for, so it'd be interesting to see it, but, you know, Jeff covered it, so.
Okay, so there is a motion to table this till after. Do we want to use that motion then, or do we want to change it if he's gonna bring back information on Pine Meadows? Table it? Alright, so we'll go with that motion on the floor to table this until we have the,
Sorry. If I can suggest that, because there's a time impact as well. If we want to do something, we need good weather. If the decision is made in September, after the consultant's report, October, there's nothing that I can do in the field. I would suggest the motion be revised with those.
okay, I will take back my previous motion. I'll make a new motion to have administration bring back options for Pine Meadows and Saginaw Estates. Does that work for everybody, council? With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, that one's carried. So that gets us 9.5 belly dump trailer purchase.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Belly dump trailers are necessary for our county's operations, such as graveling, culvert replacements, any kind of material hauling, and other tasks. Due to the larger capacity, the belly dump trailers are generally more efficient than the end dump trailers that we have when hauling larger quantities of commodities or traveling to sites with height restrictions. In the past years, county has been renting belly dump trailers and paid on average $11,000 a year for the rental. Since the need of a belly dump trailer is continuous, it is more advantageous to purchase a belly dump trailer and own ourselves. A used belly dump trailer, approximately 20 years old, can be purchased for under $40,000. A mechanical inspection will be performed prior to the purchase. And for comparison, a new belly dump trailer can be purchased for $250,000. Therefore, administration recommends the purchase of a used belly dump trailer because it makes financial sense. The funding would come from the equipment reserve, and the additional needs of belly dump trailers and truck tractors for performing routine asset maintenance activities will be further reviewed in future budget development process. Thank you.
Thank you. This one's pretty quick. Any discussion on this? Or Councillor Williams?
I like that it's not looking at a brand new one for him to use it, so that's pretty good, nice savings, but I'll make a motion that council approves inclusion of $40,000 for a belly dump trailer purchase into 2024 capital budget with funding to come from the equipment reserve.
Thank you very much, Councillor. With that, any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any, call Councillor Prestige.
Through the chair, to Jeff. the trailer we're renting right now, can that be purchased?
Through the chair to Councilor Prestige, I don't think so. We rent from a company in Spruce Grove, and they rent out trailers on a continuous basis. We would most likely have to go to a equipment purchase site to do that.
No, I was just wondering, because we would know the shape that trailer's in with us renting it. It'd be worthwhile checking, because a lot of the rental companies will sell trailers.
Through the chair to Councilor Prestige, yes, we'll look into that.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? Not seeing any. Call the question, all in favor? That one is approved. We'll finish up these last couple in 9 and we'll take a break here. 9.6, impact of the Land and Property Rights Tribunal 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through the chair to council. So the Land Tribunal had made their decision on roll number 298070, where some assessment values were decreased, and the current 2023 impact of that decision is $1 million decrease in revenue, and we anticipate a similar decrease will be for 2024. The $1 million for returning that cash to the owner of the property will be taken from Operation Reserve, General Reserve. The 2024 impact, approximately $930,000 were included in the budget, anticipating an unfavorable ruling. So the variance between that and roughly $1 million, 50 or so, we're anticipating will be coming from cash reserve. Beyond 2023 and 2024, into 2025 and beyond, we will be seeing our assessments decreased by that 1 million, because that will not be available to assess. So what that creates is that for the same level of revenue, all things being equal, we will have a slight increase in taxes if nothing changes. So if our expenses remain as is, and our revenue assessment dates remain as is, to meet the same level of revenues that we needed for 2024, we would need an increase in expenses. So that's just a quick summary for council update and information, if there are any questions on that.
Councilor Prestige?
Through the chair, to Denisha, this $1 million, we have the school tax and that. Is it gonna be a portion of that $1 million, or is $1 million what we're gonna have to pay?
Through the chair to Councilor Prestige. So we will be doing the adjustments. So wherever, one of the things that we do with the county, wherever we have over levy or under levy, so if our assessments came in less or more than what we had budgeted for with regards to the requisitions, we update those in the next year's budget. So if we were to collect more or to collect less, we update that. So for the requisitions, we will, the province will either refund us, or we will recoup it next year in reducing the amount of funds that we submit to the province next year on their requisition.
And second question, is this gonna set a precedence for other companies trying to get their taxes down?
With these properties, we don't know what the outcome would be. They are assessed by the tribunals, and depending on the evidence that companies provide, they make their decisions on that. So unfortunately, we don't have any control over that procedure. And as we can see, it does take a number of months to go through, because this result, as we just received right now, is for the 2022 assessment. So they do look to have a process that they go through to ensure that their decision is one that needs to be made, and not just haphazardly. So, yeah, it's, yeah.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Not seeing any. In a motion, Councillor Dean?
I move that council accepts the summary analysis of the Land and Property Rights Tribunal's 2022 assessment revision for roll number 298070 as information.
Thank you, Councillor. Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. 9.7, RMA President Candidacy support. I'll leave this one up to Councillor Burrows.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as, I'll just give you the basic quick background. As you're aware, Paul McLaughlin, our current president of rural municipalities of Alberta, is not going to continue. He's decided to step down at the end of his term here in the fall. And that does open the need to select a new president of rural municipalities of Alberta. Through the procedure, we've done a few changes. So the supportive council is, we were actually looking at making it a mandatory requirement, but it is recommended so that candidates have the support of their council to run for this position. So that's why I'm bringing it forward to you today. Again, it's not required, but it's recommended, and I feel that I'd like to do this with the support of council and make sure that they're behind me in this endeavor as well. So I guess at this point I'd like to ask for your support to put my name forward for running for president for the RMA.
Councillor Dean?
Through the chair to John, I think I speak on behalf of council that you have our full endorsement. I'd be happy to move that council supports Councillor John Burrows in his candidacy for RMA president.
Thank you. I just, to that, Councillor Burrows, do we need like a letter with a county letterhead or something endorsing your support, or is the motion here good enough in your heart?
I think just excerpting the motion from the meeting would be acceptable, just so that it's got backup and carries some weight with it, and just so that everybody's aware too. I am in the middle of my term here, which means that I'm still the director for District 3. So if I'm unsuccessful as president, I stay on as director of District 3. If I am successful, then there will be an election for District 3, and we know how that kind of went last year, in the fact that nobody knew whether there was going to be an election or not, and there were some issues with the candidacy. So just so that you're aware, the policy was changed this year so that the president and the vice president positions, the nominations are required to be in 1 month ahead of the convention, and the directors 2 weeks ahead of the convention, and that way membership is aware that there is somebody running mid-term, and they have 2 weeks to put their name forward to fill in those positions, just so that everybody's aware. And a motion's just fine.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Hawken?
Councillor. Through the chair to John, so what, putting that forward, do we need to get the support of another municipality to second the motion or the name, or is it just putting a name forward and then the motion comes at the convention?
Through the chair to CAO, no, the nomination portion can all be handled by me. Again, this is a recommended procedure, not a mandatory procedure. And again, I want to be able to tell people that I'm doing this with the full support of my council, so that people realize that my council will be cooperative with the amount of time that this is going to take out of my schedule.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Perfect. That's carried. I'll do 9.8, and then we'll take a quick break here. Level of service review request for quote results.
Okay, so as council's aware, in the current strategic plan, there is an item that requires us to do a level of service review. We put out a request for quotation and received 4 companies back that had bid on the project. I provided council with a scoring sheet with everything that was included in the RFQ as far as the proponents knew this is what the scoring was going to be. And after doing the scoring, it was all pretty close, but administration, myself, is recommending that council approve It's Logical to complete the project. I have worked with Mr. Rudick in the past, and he does good work. In fact, I've actually worked with Transitional Solutions and one of the ballot members too, and they do good work as well. But at this point, It's Logical, even though they are not the lowest proposed cost, they did get the highest score overall. And one of the big things was the date. He's proposing to finish by mid-September, where the next best was end of November or mid-November. So it's quite a difference in timing for us. For council needing it for strategic planning, that September date is very favorable.
Any questions, comments on that? Councillor Williams?
Make a motion that council approve It's Logical to complete level of service review and estimated cost of $42,000 for funds allocated from the administrative contracted services operating account.
Thank you. Discussion on that motion? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. With that, we'll take an 8-minute break. Come back at 11:30. we're back. Okay, it is 11:33. We're back. We're going to move on to 10.1, celebrating North America's top 50 economic developers. This is always a shining moment for our municipality when it's our staff we can highlight.
Oh, you did the so if you want to do it, yeah.
Well, thank you again, Mr. Chair, and through Chair to Council. As it was communicated in previous council meeting, our Economic Development Officer, Bird, has been nominated as one of North America's top 50 economic development officers in the field. And so there was a publication with celebratory of his success and his nomination, and we wanted to bring this to council as information item so that just we're celebrating our staff and their success and their representation, not only for our country, because one of the top 50, but also for our county and the work that he's doing for our team and for our economic success.
Okay, like I said, this is always good when we can shine a light on some of our staff, like you said, on the successes they have. And Mr. Roach is definitely very motivated and driven in his field, and it's absolutely fantastic that he got nominated at EDA, and then to have this here, following. He's a fantastic individual. Any other comments? Make a motion, Councillor Kuchen?
Yeah, I'd just like to say I've done a lot of work with Bert, and the one thing that always stands out is that he has a very, very high level of energy, and he definitely is an economic developer. There's never a moment that you can get him aside where you don't get into that discussion with him. So I really appreciate having him on staff, and also appreciate the work that he did with the RETA, which has been a big part of the work that I've done with him. So yeah, that's just a comment that I would like to make.
Anybody want to make a motion, except for information? Councillor Dean?
Sure, be happy to move that council accepts North America's top 50 economic developers as information. And congratulations to Bert.
Thank you very
If I
much.
can throw that in.
Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any, call the question. Oh,
I was gonna say, we should have had him down here.
I know,
No,
we thought he
should have been
was
down here.
We thought he was coming, yeah.
No, if we can pass on.
Isn't this one of those times where somebody hides behind the door and gives them a pie?
Yeah. All right, with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is moved. We're going down to council reports and questions. I'll start with Councillor Burrows on the virtual side.
Microphone button again. Hopefully that's on. Yeah, so just some special meetings. I've been really busy on a few things on the RMA side. We haven't had too much other than the unfortunately I missed a municipal planning committee meeting, but the one thing that I do want to bring to council's attention is July 15th, there was an article in Bloomberg News that the Alberta government has decided to relax the rule on buying oil and gas wells if municipal taxes are not paid. So that was the ministerial order that said you can't transfer assets for oil and gas wells with more than 20,000 taxes outstanding. This comes as a result of the OWA, the Orphan Well Association, trying to deal with some bankruptcies, and there were liabilities, tax liabilities attached to some of these. So we were trying to get our taxes paid out of the selling of the good wells, and I guess through some some vehement lobbying by CAP and some of the other oil and gas productions, they've decided that municipalities aren't really all that important to pay for taxes, so they've removed the rule in the defunct end. So that leaves us in a difficult position again. And I don't know if anybody wants to have a conversation about, writing a letter to our MLA and to the province on this, but this is not good.
I would
That's the-
definitely second that idea, sending a letter to our both MLAs and to the province. I mean, this is just gonna put us back in the same boat we were before when all the municipalities got hit with non-payments.
Well, and I think it's really important to realize that, there were 3 initiatives that the GOA put in place. One was the 3-year tax holiday. The other was the assessment change to low production and shallow oil and gas wells. And the third is the equipment and well drilling tax elimination. So all 3 of those are, now the well drilling tax doesn't really affect us all that much, but they do chip into our revenues, all 3 of those things. And all of those revenue breaks are on the backs of rural Alberta. There's none of the urban municipalities that are really affected by that. And in reality, this is how we pay our bills for building infrastructure, for paying for ICFs, for all of these other things. And I again, it's just another strike on our revenues. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands that.
Any questions? Anything else for Councillor Burrows? To administration for that letter to the MLAs and the province, do you guys want a motion on that? Councillor Burrows, do you want to make that motion?
Yeah, I can make a motion. Maybe that administration prepare a letter to the MLA and to the Minister of Municipal Affairs, and I think it was the Minister of Energy, Brian Jean, that made this announcement too. Maybe just restating the municipal position on unpaid oil and gas tax.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on that motion from council? Any clarification from administration? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Moving on, move over to Councillor Kuchen.
Yeah, for me, there's not a lot to report. I was gone for a week to New York, so I missed the meeting on the 3rd. And since then, I haven't had a lot to do, so that's my report for this month.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Councillor Kuchen? Councillor Dean?
Shortest report ever.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start out with a question, I guess, for administration. Considering we were not successful in our STIP funding request or application, wondering when the next intake is for that.
It's generally in the fall.
In the fall sometime? So there'll be, we can,
Generally, sorry, Chair to Councillor Dean. Generally, the intake is November 30th deadline.
okay. So are we applying again? Are we developing another application?
Through the Chair to Councillor Dean, we haven't thought about that. We have to think about why we're not successful before making the next move.
Okay. I guess to council, that funding's critical in our airport rehab. And quite honestly, I'm shocked that we were unsuccessful after our meetings with 2 different ministries where we got a very favorable response. But if we don't have that funding, we can't move forward with the rehab project that we're planning to go forward with. And I know we have a presentation from HMRO coming up sometime in the fall to give us some direction from an operational point of view. But the capital obligations that our municipality has to that airport are significant. I think over the next 7 years, the timeline was over $12 million. And without government funding, we just can't do that. And so I'd suggest to council that we would direct administration to develop another application. I don't know if that's in the form of a notice of motion. I don't know procedurally what I need to do there.
Rod?
Was there a motion for the first one, or, because generally administration
Yeah.
would just apply for as many as they can.
Okay.
Um,
So could I just urge administration to review that and develop another application if applicable? I'm sure it is.
Yeah, and the deadline is November 30th.
Okay.
Jeff,
Okay.
I seen you were looking like you wanted to say something there.
I was just going to, through chair to Councillor Dean, this is one topic we want to bring to the next Airport Advisory Committee meeting for discussions.
Yeah, it's just that could be, we don't know when we're gonna have that meeting. So I don't think this is, I mean, it's good information for the committee, but in my opinion, we need that money or we can't proceed with our runway rehab project, so.
Okay, I got Councillor Coolin, then Councillor Burrows.
Yeah, I have a bit of a question on that STIP funding. First of all, I'd like to know what the criteria is on who gets picked for that funding because of the way that the funding is allocated. I'd like to know what that criteria is from you know, how the government picks who is winners and losers in this lottery. The reason I say that is because I think for the purpose of our municipality, given that we have this airport here that is being used extensively by the provincial governments, that we should, you know, have some kind of an idea of why we weren't granted that money. And secondly, I think if there is no criteria, if this is, you know, some kind of a political way that they're doing things, I think that we should have a resolution that goes to RMA that says, look, we want to know what the criteria is so that we can actually see if we qualify. Because a lot of the energy that our staff puts into to apply for that funding is basically given away. So that's just my view on it, and I agree with Al that we can't, you know, if this becomes an issue, we just turn the airport back to the province and say, here, this is your baby.
Councillor Burrows, and then I think Rod had a comment there.
There we go. I was just going to say further to Councillor Dean and Councillor Culkin's comments. I think it might be worthwhile inviting our MLAs to come and meet with us. We haven't done that in a while, and we can have a conversation with them about. So that would be MLA Van Dyken and MLA Long. And we can get them into a council meeting or invite them into a council meeting and explain our position around the airport and how regionally critical that airport is for forest firefighting, and that the province step up with some funding on it, that maybe we can get some provincial MLA backing when we do go to apply for some of these grants, if council is amenable to that, making that recommendation.
Yeah.
No, that would be, it's been kind of long overdue. We haven't had them in chambers here since I think last fall.
Yeah.
A few months ago, yeah. It wasn't actually that long ago.
So it definitely seems like it, but it would be nice to get them back again. We can.
Oh, that was spring.
Yeah, they were just here.
Yeah. And I know the airport came up during that conversation. You know, that was one of the topics that I was attending virtually, but I can remember Councillor Wilhelm expressing that point that really required that funding. So I'm not sure whether, I've got some other things that I was ready to discuss. So the other question, The road commonly referred to as the cut-across road that connects East and West Mountain Road. The green signs that normally identify the range road and the township road, one of them says West Mountain Road, and the other one says, with an arrow, to East Mountain Road. So anybody that lives on Range Road 591A on that stretch of road, that road is not identified by a township road. And so I think it's a good idea to have a directional sign that indicates to people that are looking to get to East Mountain Road that this is the way to go there. But I also think we need a township road sign just for people trying to use their Google Map. Exactly. So I just put that on administration's radar. And then as for schedule of activities, like most of council, on June 25th, I attended the staff appreciation breakfast and then subsequent barbecue. The breakfast was here in Whitecourt, and barbecue was at Fort Assiniboine. July 2nd, we had a special council meeting. July 4th, our EDO and myself met with a couple representatives of the Whitecourt Indigenous Friends Society just to come to a meeting of the minds, I guess, on what their goals and aspirations are and how we can help. And then we followed that up with an Economic Development Committee strat plan meeting, which was very, very fruitful. And then on the 11th, we were invited, we as a council, I guess, were invited to the summer boot camp celebration. It was a barbecue at Hilltop High School, and the boot camp is an opportunity for students to get their safety credentials, if they want to go and work in an industrial application, as well as a whole variety of other short duration courses that gives them exposure to trades, etc. So I sat at lunch with a couple of young ladies from the Merithorpe area, and Selmo area is where they caught the bus, I think. Both of them had taken their basic safety certification, workplace safety certification, and then the one young lady had a 2-week introduction to welding, and the other one had a 2-week introduction to forensics, which was pretty interesting to me that she'd have that opportunity. So kudos to Northern Gateway for putting those on. And then later that day we had yet another special council meeting. So that was my activities from last council meeting.
Hey, any other questions for Councillor Dean? Councillor Prestige?
It's been a little slow with a lot of my boards on summer break. I attended 2 virtual special council meetings, and we had an MPC meeting. We had 4 items on that, and all were passed. And other than that, there's not much happening. In the hamlet of Blue Ridge, we've had some kind of vandalism. Where the mailboxes are, there's a bus shelter that has glass. Somebody was burning donuts in the parking lot and smashed out 3 of these big windows. So that's disappointing. But other than that, everything seems to be going pretty good.
Thank you. Any questions for Councillor Prestige? Not seeing any. Councillor Williams?
I also attended the ECDEV strat plan. That was really good. I enjoy being on that board. Out of that, the local vendor program's starting to be used in Woodlands County, so that's pretty exciting. A couple of businesses on there. And then I also attended the virtual special council meeting. That's all I've been up to.
Any questions for Councillor Williams? Not seeing any. Again, summer break, kind of a little bit quieter. We did have the Chamber Golf Tournament. Managed that with Councillor Burrows, our interim CAO, and Sheldon. Thankfully, we had Sheldon and Rod from administration. They kind of helped hold our team there for us. Community Futures, AGM, kind of gave us a rundown over the year on, I guess, where everything's at and their funding and their levels. And again, it's a fantastic organization, what they do. NPC meeting, that was a kind of quick one. We had the four topics to cover. I thankfully was able to show up for the staff appreciation and breakfast, but unfortunately wasn't able to make the barbecue in Fort Assiniboine. Hopefully the staff up there doesn't hold that against me, but they do a great job up there. So, and then the couple star special meetings that we had. So nothing too terrible. Talking about vandalism in Blue Ridge out of the Ensemble Hall, we ended up with a couple individuals who broke in and decided they wanted to steal a bunch of T-ball equipment.
Jeez.
Yeah, out of all the stuff to take, I guess, whatever they feel they can get some money out of. Thankfully, we had cameras and we got individuals for that. So, with that, any other questions, comments, Mr. Hawken?
Just through the chair to all of council on the STIP funding, we definitely qualify. The 5 or 4 pillars are to improve accessibility and the movement of goods and people, to increase the capacity of municipal transportation infrastructure to support economic growth, to enhance safety and efficiency, and to extend the service life of key transportation infrastructure. As is the case in every letter I have seen from the province, when we are turned down, it's because they were oversubscribed. So they have to pick and choose, but I'm suspecting that because in April, the province handed out $1.1 million for regional Alberta airports, and Woodlands was one of the successful proponents of that they got this money, so we don't need to give them that money.
Yeah, that was 95,000.
For approved, I guess, plans. Whatever.
For a
Business
study.
plan, yeah.
Business plan.
Yeah.
So it's just something that you probably hear if you ask the question, but it's not apples to apples.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, with that, any other questions, comments? Councillor Williams?
Let's make a motion that council accepts the council report and questions this information.
Thank you very much, Councillor. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. 11.2, July 2024 Community Services Operational Report.
Good day, council. So under protective services, our DAM, Mr. Shep, who's also our protective services manager, is currently on vacation. So Ms. Gillibrand, our safety individual, is acting DAM. There's been some training happening with the fire departments. It's called NFPA 1001 Level 1 training. So currently working with all the departments on the funding, enrolling the members and the training, and funding for that was through a grant from the government. Dustin Williams, who's the deputy fire chief at Fort Assiniboine, has been the course instructor, and I guess has been doing a fabulous job in organizing that. They've been working with the Whitecourt Fire Department on Fire Smart Home Assessments, which is District 1. There's also updates that are in the process on the SOG manual. County building condition assessments for the stations is in the process, not completed, is my understanding. We've also submitted NFPA 1051 wildland firefighter GOA grant documents. Hopefully we're successful there. Working with a third-party contractor at Station 4, which is Anselmo. There's some septic field issues that have been ongoing. And then when he returns, he'll be also working with Skyline Security on upgrades for the county fire stations. As far as planning and development goes, 39 permits total, development permits. Land use amendments, we just completed the one today, so that one we can get off the books. Subdivisions, there's currently 7 applications that have been approved through the Municipal Planning Commission. And of course, it's that time of year where we get our daily phone calls and office visits from individuals purchasing property or doing development or subdivision or whatever it is they may come up with. Other tasks that the team's got going is they're working on a cautionary property procedures, either policy or whatever that might look like. We're working with GIS system Catalyst in order to build out a layer to track properties. And where we get that information from is from our community peace officers when they encounter things that they feel may be of concern. And then we've got our team, whether it be planning and development or our infrastructure team, that may need to attend that property. We want somehow to be able to track that there's concern there, just so that individuals have a head up before they head out. Also working with the infrastructure department, creating approach, and it'll also be a road and approach application and processes, just so that we have the proper paperwork for finalization and when approval is given to approaches and roads with respect to new construction. We're reviewing tentative times to book the next phase of the land use bylaw. So far, we're hoping in September, mid-September 2024. This will include again that workshop with council, and then the members that volunteered from the MPC, STAB, and the other committee members, the Airport Advisory Committee. We have a consultant and administration working on, of course, the proposed amendments to the LUB. We reviewed several of those amendments yesterday, and we'll have some more to review next Tuesday. As a result of the open houses that we had in June, we had some questions on some of the forms that we got back, comment forms. So what we did is we, where we had emails, we responded back to those individuals. Administration's reviewing and compiling a list of updates to consider for actually all of our planning application forms, so our development permits, subdivisions, land use amendments, just making sure they still meet with legislative requirements, and trying to streamline them somewhat so that they're easier for our ratepayers to utilize. Community services, the July 2024 meeting was canceled. Ms. Anderson was on vacation. She's returned with us today. So the next meeting will be scheduled for August 8th. She had met with the Fort Friendship Society on June 18th and is working on amending the operational agreement in regards to the museum and the drop-in center. There's of course been preparation and discussions on the programming agreement with the Woodlands Library Board, in which council had budgeted $40,000. Both libraries have been utilizing those funds, and have got some great initiatives going this summer with those additional funds. On June 22nd, the Nelson Cartwright family met to celebrate the addition of a centennial plaque that the county made for them. It was Klondike Cemetery's 100 year. I think they had indicated some disappointment that someone from the county wasn't in attendance at it, but they were very thankful for what was done there. Just an update with respect to the Klondike Cemetery as well. The parking lot is being leveled and some gravel added to that. And then we're also adding a man gate for access. So currently where the parking is they have to walk all the way along the front of the cemetery in order to get into it. So looking at placing a man gate in the fence there. And then of course ongoing plans for the Blue Ridge Family Fun Day in September. It continues. Just booking and confirming venues. Some exciting news is our Rural Community Connections Grant, which is essentially where residents can make application to have a little party, if you want to call it that, just to meet each other and build community connections. We've actually had 5 of those to date, which is a big increase from what we've had in previous years. Apprenticeship bursaries. We do that intake throughout the year, and we've seen an increase from 1 year to 3 to 4. And the exciting thing is those individuals that have been making those applications are actually working within Woodlands County. So they're coming back to the community, which is good. And then we discovered through an email or a phone call that we have bats back at the museum at the fort. Had a gentleman go out and have a look at it, and there's apparently 70 of them in there. So there's 2 nests.
7-0.
7-0. I guess the issue being is that they can't be removed currently because, of course, there's little ones, and they are an endangered species. So, so he's coming back in August to rectify the issue, and what they're going to do is they're going to close off where they're getting in currently, and then once in the fall, they can then close up the other area and make sure that they don't re-enter. So yeah, a little bit of excitement there. Of course, we've got, pursuant to our policy 6211, which is our benefits program, which is the tax refunds and the transportation grants. We've been getting several applications for that. And she's currently working on those, getting those ready to be forwarded for payment. Economic development, of course, June 13th, there was the Grow Your Small Business event. There was good turnout for that particular event and the presenters that were there as well. June 19th, council approved the Woodlands the pilot program. My understanding is as of yesterday, we've got 4 local businesses that have, and there are 4 others that we're just doing some background research just to make sure that they've got the proper permits. And I think he said it looks like there could be a total of 13 that want to make application for it. So that's quite exciting, considering it's just a pilot project, and we had kind of put a topper of 10 on it, but it's exciting that we've got so much interest in that. And then pursuant to what Al indicated is that the Dev Committee did have a meeting and held a strategic planning workshop, and which some of those items that were discussed will be brought forward to the 2025 budgeting process. And again, the Whitecourt Indigenous Friends Society had a meeting, and again, as part of Council's Meaningful Indigenous Pathway Strategy, those meetings will continue. Woodlands County, as per the budget, is once again supporting the Northern Gateway Summer Boot Camps, as again Aldine pointed out, and very successful program. And Bert had attended the barbecue event and said that it was really good to talk to some of the students and see some of the activities that they had participated in. And then Woodlands County is also providing some door prize items to the Alberta Trappers Association for their rendezvous and outdoor show that will be held on July 11th and 12th, which I guess has already been. Yeah, and that's everything.
Thank you very much. And I apologize to the Klondike Cemetery. I said I was going to try to go, and my schedule changed. I wasn't able to. Not sure if anybody else, unfortunately, was able to go, but I'm glad the lease administration showed up. So thank you guys for supporting our county there. Any other questions, comments for administration? Councillor Dean?
Just move that council accepts the July 2024 Community Services Operational Report as information.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any. Other question in favor? That one's carried. Down to 11.3, July 2024 Corporate Services Report.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. So we would like to bring an update to council on the 2 business systems that we are currently acquiring right now. So our team has gone through about both our phase 1 and our phase 2 review. And our phase 1 process involves evaluating the suppliers on their proposal that they had put forward and how they met what our requests desired. And from there, we selected 3 businesses to move forward, 3 suppliers. for the second round, and of those three, two of those suppliers were bidding on both systems. In the second round, our team went through a series of system presentations by the suppliers, so at least 2 hours each. Several of them were more than 2 hours with questions, and just to make sure that they would meet the needs of our county, not just our current needs as we have it for today, but tomorrow, that systems are scalable and they can grow with us as we grow, or we can grow into them. So we are moving forward and not backwards. And from those demonstration, our team evaluated individually and then discussed as a group. And from there, we selected 2 companies that we wanted to look more into, and we did some interviews and talked to individuals who have either worked with some of those systems in the past or in the process of going through system implementations. And right now, we have 2 candidates that we would like to move forward with. And so we just wanted to bring council update on that. With regards to the budget, my understanding through the initial budgets that were put forward over 2 years, 300 last budget and 300 in a few budget seasons ago, for a total of 6. And initially, that budget was to fund just the financial system. However, right now, the proposals that we have, we can get both systems that are right now within that budget line. We would have to look at some contingencies in the 2025 budget for additional resources that we might need as our team is going through this implementation, and just other things that might come up. But right now, both systems fall into, for the implementation, falls within the current budget that we have right now. The annual cost for maintaining the financial system is comparable to what we are paying right now. It will be a little bit less than what we are paying annually right now after implementation. So that cost is not increasing. On the asset management side of things, that's a different system. What we're looking at in the scope, like our financial system right now is quite larger than our asset management system. But right now, for implementation, we can accommodate both in the same budget.
Councillor Dean.
So through the chair to Denisha, so the asset management software would communicate with the financial software?
Yes, so in our through the chair to Councillor Dean. Yes, so in our evaluation, both at our initial stage and in our second stage, we ensure that whichever system we're getting can not only communicate to our these 2 systems that we will be getting, but also what other system, the potential of communicating with other systems that we may be using across our county.
Hey, any other questions for Tanisha? Councillor Kuchen?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that the council accept the July 2024 Corporate Services Report as information.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All in favor? Sure, Councillor Burrows is there or not. That is still carried. Let's move on to 11.4, Infrastructure Status Report.
Thank you, Worship, members of council. First, I'll provide an update on the capital projects under 2024 budget. Under the capital budget. From 2023 budget, 2 greater units that were ordered last year in November, they are delayed to first week of August delivery. In the carry forward projects from 2023 capital budget, right-of-way acquisition, there's a separate line for that. Building condition assessment, we have the interim report. We are looking to review and finalizing that. Hamlet Canyon Stairs, the consultant is working on revised design tender. That should be ready by the end of the month. Tandem plow and center truck. This unit was ordered last year and it should be here sometime in August. And the radio system is still target for implementation by the end of 2024. Moving into 2024 budget projects. You heard from Joan on the first 4 items. I'm not going to repeat. Item 11, 6 pickup trucks. They're all here and in use. One more tandem plow and center truck. It will be arriving in by the end of 2024. Item 13, 2 2024 grader units. These were ordered in March 2024. 1 unit will still come in October, November 2024 timeline. And the second one, per special council meeting last week, will be coming with a upgraded unit to 160. And the delivery has been delayed to January 2025. The next page, the first 5 items, 14 through 18, they are complete. Item 19, erosion repair on Range Road 110. Consultant is currently working on a design and a quotation package, and this will be completed and ready for quotes by the end of this month. Item 20, the terminal upgrades has been completed. Item 21, airport runway engineering. HM Aero is currently working on the design. The final design should be completed by early fall of 2024. Item 22, office development here downstairs. We are looking at hiring an architect and laid out a floor plan. The construction will likely begin in late 2024. I will highlight this 75,000 does appear to be low for office development. And once we have more updated number, I'll bring back to council. Item 23, for the Assiniboia office sewer line replacement. In this month, we will conduct repairs. Just for the time being, a more comprehensive review is needed for future years. Item 24, recreation building floor. This is to pour a concrete floor for our cold storage here in the yard for the recreation teams. And this work will be done in fall of 2024, in summer/fall. Item 25, sanitary sewer line replacement, Crescent Drive in Fort Assiniboia. The work started last week. Should be completed this week, except the paving portion. When the work is completed, we issue another notice. Currently, there is already a notice to residents that the road has been blocked. Item 26, COMIX application, as I mentioned earlier, the report will come by the end of August. Item 27, Carson Drive, as well as item 33 through 37, they're all in the same consulting agreement. We have evaluated 7 proposals and selected a consultant. Once the agreement's in place, the consultant can start working on the design. Item 28, speed indicator signage for the Assiniboia. We have received quotes, and later in the season we will move forward in procurement and getting these signs installed. Item 29, item 30, we have discussed in today's council meeting. Item 30, in 2024 projects carried forward to future years. Item 31 and 32, the 2 bridge valve replacement, we're currently working on the design. The first project, it's a STIP funding project, and the second project we have just applied for CCBF grant funding this morning, so we hope to receive some grant funding for that. And for the second, for line 32, we have recently received Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans approval, so it's one less hurdle to go through. Item 33 and 37 are already covered. I will bring back RFD for August council meeting for item 34. I'm not going to disclose the details just yet. And lastly, item 38, that was decided by, that was approved by council last council meeting to defer the project by 2 years and defer the engineering by 1 year. So we'll be hiring consultant shortly here. That's the capital project update. Before I move into operations, if there are any questions.
Questions for Jeff? Oh, Councillor Williams?
The speed indicator signs on 470, do you think those will be installed by the time school starts back up in late August, I guess it is?
Through the chair to Councillor Williams, we will try, but there is we need to go to the province for a permit. So that is one timeline, although that probably don't take much time, I don't want to promise. We'll certainly target.
Anything else? Councillor Burrows?
Sorry, I just wanted to, I want to make sure that, that our Director of Infrastructure feels supported, because I was kind of rough the last item. So I just, I wanted to say thank you very much for, looking at the fleet and looking at the possibility of taking some action on changing equipment, and I think it's a move in the right direction to kind of try some different things and see how they're going to work. So I think we're on the right track. I just wanted to kind of give a kudos out to our Director of Infrastructure, Jeff Sang. So thank you.
Through the chair to council, I appreciate the comment, and it will be a period of reactive and trying to patch and bridge and until we get to a future state of a more proactive and planned manner of delivering infrastructure services. I appreciate council's patience and working with us to get to that future state. It would take some time for us to get over the humps.
Thank you. Yes, nothing else on capital, if you want to go into operations, sir?
Yes. Our infrastructure teams have been working in full swing in the summer months amid challenging weather events. We had a major precipitation event, and we have the heat waves this last week and this week. In terms of the airport, we are scheduling an emergency exercise and an audit towards the end of September. For water and wastewater, the hydrant flushing in Fort Assiniboine started on June 4th and completed last week. This week we are doing the same flushing but in Blue Ridge. Very nice spray park. That's the spray parking in Blue Ridge. We had a computer problem, and we have a pump problem. It's reopened. It's usable for now, but we do have a new pump that we need to install. We also have a computer that we have to replace, but for now people can still use it. For the Blue Ridge bulk water station, it was down for a day or two. It's now up and running again. In solid waste areas, met with the town administration regarding regional landfill authority governance structure, and constantly dealing with illegal dumping, mostly in the Doris area. In agriculture services, the roadway mowing has been completed. We have done a full ditch cut in Blue Ridge at Sawmill and north of Fort Assiniboine areas. Other areas received a shoulder, a single pass. We have issued RFP for 4-H corral removal and received 0 bid. So we have negotiated an agreement to be signed with the interested party for the removal, and waiting for that agreement to be fully executed. Beaver dam removal is ongoing. Spraying is ongoing. Weed inspection ongoing. We had a dynamite inspection by the federal government that was completed last week. And we have a visit with the Promise Alberta Agriculture and Irrigation scheduled for August 21st. In recreation, the site maintenance is ongoing, but the Goose Lake dock was installed. The 2 pudding stairs was also installed. And last but not least, roads. The 2 pudding parking area was surfaced with gravel and as well as sand. We receive donated sand from the Promise for that. The Township Road 614, otherwise known as Little Russia, the crossing was reinstalled. We rebuilt a physical bridge there. The girders also donated by the Promise. Drift removal has commenced. Crack sealing has commenced, and I believe it's completed by now. Line painting touch-up will commence on the Hamlet roads. Pothole patching has commenced its ongoing effort. Sign repairs and replacement are proceeding. Culvert repairs and washouts commenced. I was going to bring an RFD for council this time for urgent culvert replacement work, but that will be deferred to next council meeting. We have quite a few urgent culvert repairs that we need to, culvert replacement that we have to do this year. Regular road grading is ongoing. Second phase of graveling program completed. Patch graveling will be ongoing. Our next graveling program is for Salmon Hall area. Calcium program completed, and the co-mix program was discussed today. That's my update to council this time for operational items.
Hey, any questions in the operational end? Councilor Burrows?
Sorry, I just have one, and this is something that's been ongoing since the first, since my first term. Something that we'd observed was a fair bit of, Jeff brought it up during his report. So through the chair to the Director of Infrastructure, my question would be around the illegal dumping that you're seeing in the county, and I guess is there. And I don't want you to spend a lot of time on it, but the, from my observations living in different places and provinces, the harder it was to dump and the more you charged people to dump at the landfills, it tended to be the more that some of this stuff ended up in some of the illegal dumping. It's not going to eliminate all of it. People do weird things. But I haven't had any luck on trying to have that conversation with the Waste Management Authority, but I guess I'll just ask the Director of Infrastructure, do you think there's any merit to trying to cut our costs a little bit, chasing down all this illegal dumping by removing fees for dumping at the landfill, so people can just get rid of this stuff rather than dumping it in the ditch? We're seeing a lot of cost increases personally, and I from the reports I'm getting, it seems like it's getting worse.
So the chair to Councilor Burrows, it's hard for me to come up with the answer on the spot. It's half a dozen to 6. It's on each hand. What I do find more effective, if we happen to know who may be the suspect, we get our peace officer to have a chat with them. That may discourage the individuals of dumping. If I can come back to your question at a later time, I do want to think about it a bit more.
Thank you.
Councilor Pressage?
Through the chair to Jeff, on the dumping, I think the majority of the areas that do the illegal dumping in our county are on Crown land. Is there any way we can get some participation from the province to help clean this up?
Through the chair to Councilor Pressage, the illegal dumping that I mentioned here purely to do with our transfer sites. I get what you're saying. I've seen people the illegal dumping on Oak Blue Ridge Highway. If it's Crown land, it's outside of our jurisdiction, but we can certainly make inform the province on the public land management side. I don't know if they would do too much at all, because but I can certainly bring to their attention.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jeff on the operational side? Councillor Williams?
I was just gonna make a motion that council accepts the July 2024 infrastructure service status report as information.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Call that question. All in favor? That is carried. Service tracker report 11.5.
Reid and Council, before you is the monthly service tracker report for the month of June. As you can see, the total requests are still well in line with previous years. 75 total requests, primarily for grading and washboarding and other road services. We did get 3 kudos as well for excellent work from staff, and as Councillor Dean mentioned, we did get a kudos for staff helping out someone with their scholarship work. As well as there was an operator who extinguished a small fire on the old Ferry loop while out performing their regular duties. Again, as Councillor Dean had mentioned, we did get a lot of questions regarding the cut across road and the signs out there, requesting a deer crossing sign and mentioning some faded signs out there in the area. And then, yeah, aside from that, it's been fairly regular. Oh, there was also a question about there was something attached to one of the stop signs at Bison Road that was a traffic collection monitoring device.
Okay. Any questions for Nikita?
Oh, and sorry, another thing, there was also, as mentioned at the last council meeting, the Sergeant Choma mentioned squatters. We did get a request regarding that.
Councillor Prestige?
I'll make a motion that council accepts the June monthly service tracker report as information.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. I'll call the question. All in favor? That one's carried. 11.6 CAO report.
So I'm holding you up from having lunch, and I know we have to be back at 1. One of the things about going last is everyone else has already taken everything on my list, so it'll be short. Just as a reminder, Jeff will be bringing a report back on the high priority roads for August as to how that's been going. Hopefully it's been going well. I don't know if the complaints have been reduced or not, but we'll look at that and provide that in August. Just an update on staff communications. We've set a schedule for monthly, weekly management meetings. We want to keep staff updated on the initiatives and the level of service. I'm going to work on a staff satisfaction survey as well to gauge the current corporate culture and how it can be increased even more. We have an advertisement out for manager of field services. Paul and I continue to promote an open door policy if staff have any questions. So hopefully staff is not feeling scared to come through the door. And both Paul and I are reviewing the staffing levels in relation to the service levels. So that service level report that we get is going to be paramount for everything we do. And just finally, definitely kudos to the staff who, I don't know what time they got up, 5:30 in order to get the breakfast done. I know that Jeff, Kara, Denisha, Wilma, and Jen were certainly involved, but it was nice to come and have breakfast ready for us.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Hawkins? Not seeing any. Can I get a motion to accept the CAO report? Councillor Dean?
Sir, move that council accepts the CAO report as information.
Thank you. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. And if we want to make a motion to go into closed session, we can do that now and then we'll grab our lunch and, or we want to grab it. Council President?
I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
Under report 17 and 23. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, we are going to go into closed session. We can turn off